there's two skills. There's charisma and there's charm.
Charm, yeah.
And I'm like, I get charisma. I don't get charm as a leadership skill.
That's because you don't have any. Of course you don't
yeah,
get it.
that's true. But so I did a little research on it, but before I go into that, what do you think that means? Charm as a leadership skill. Actually, what do you think charisma means as a leadership skill?
I have no idea, actually. But I just make stuff up. I mean, that never stops me from talking, and I have no idea what I'm talking about. That's inside of a good leader. Always have something good to say. So I think charisma just means you bring excitement and energy. You make people feel good. So ultimately, the key of marketing is people aren't going to remember what you said necessarily, but they remember how they felt around you. And so subconsciously, they want to be around you because you're kind of like a drug to them. You feel good.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast. This is where we discuss current events, personal growth, and any other random topic that crosses our minds. Our goal is to have a meaningful discussion that help us to see the topics we discuss more clearly. Our hope is we can help you expand your self-awareness, develop your critical thinking, and learn to be less reactive to the world around you. And most importantly, remember, be curious. If you like what you hear, like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you have any feedback, please leave a comment. We want to hear what you think.
Chris, happy Friday. This is episode number 40?
40, yes.
Wow, that is crazy.
It's such a big deal that I'm going to speak in a low voice right now.
Oh, awesome. Like the late night DJ podcast voice.
This will last for about 30
FM
seconds before I start coughing it up.
There you go. Hey, so what should we talk about today? What do you think? What's on your mind?
So I was thinking we do need to get some guests, and we talked a little bit about that, so we should do that. What else do I want to talk about?
I'm working. I'm going to get some good ones too.
So one of the things that I've been thinking about as a leadership skill is charisma.
Oh yeah.
And the importance of charisma. And I went down a bit of a rabbit hole, kind of looking at this, and basically one thing I read said there's two skills. There's charisma and there's charm.
Charm, yeah.
And I'm like, I get charisma. I don't get charm as a leadership skill.
That's because you don't have any. Of course you don't get it.
That's true. But so I did a little research on it, but before I go into that, what do you think that means? Charm as a leadership skill. Actually, what do you think charisma means as a leadership skill?
I have no idea, actually. But I just make stuff up. I mean, that never stops me from talking, and I have no idea what I'm talking about. That's inside of a good leader. Always have something good to say. So I think charisma just means you bring excitement and energy. You make people feel good. So ultimately, the key of marketing is people aren't going to remember what you said necessarily, but they remember how they felt around you. And so subconsciously, they want to be around you because you're kind of like a drug to them. You feel good when you're around that person.
Okay. Yeah, when I looked at it, the definition it gave, which I thought was originally a little too simplified, but now I kind of like it, was charisma are the characteristics that make the audience like you, that make the listener like you.
There you go.
Charm is the ability to make the audience think that you like them.
Oh, how interesting. Okay.
So it was I'm like, well, how's that a leadership thing? Believing that the person likes me. And it's like, it's a level of connection that's much more, direct with that person one-on-one. So a charming person versus a charismatic person. And you could be both, I guess, technically, but it was just an interesting thought. I never thought of charming someone as a skill needed for leadership.
Well, yeah, if you want to get people to do what you want them to do, it's like you've got to,
Well, can't you do that with charisma? Can't you get them to like you and just do what you want them to do? Isn't that what?
Yeah, but people.
Isn't that what a populist does?
Though.
Isn't that what a populist does?
To some extent, but I mean, talk about Trump, who's very successful at doing this. I mean, people actually believe that Trump cares about them and likes them and is wanting to fight for them.
Well, if you talk to anyone who's who's got individual relationships with him, he's often given a lot of credit for being a really likable, nice guy, you know? So
Yeah.
I think on a one-on-one setting, he probably has a huge amount of charm, but he
Hmm.
also has a large amount of charisma, which either
Hmm.
turns people on or off. You know, that's why he's
Hmm.
very divisive in that way. But it occurred to me that charm is the one-on-one, charisma is the maybe one-on-many relationship.
Could be. Yeah, that's so interesting. I never really thought about it like that.
Yeah, it was something that never even occurred to me because you know it was Charm and it was going in my mind was going Prince Charming and Snow White and all these things. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, well, what's charismatic about him? Or what's leadership about him? It's just some pretty boy comes and kisses the princess, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, the charm is that ability to for other people to think you like them. So that's that one-on-one relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. According to Bustamante, all that's manufactured as well too. In fact, they teach that in the CIA. Is how to extract information out of assets.
Sure, but I mean, I'm not getting into the manipulation aspect of it. I'm just getting into the idea that the skill itself is what's impressive.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, you just cut out right there. I wonder if that's actually cut out or maybe that's on my side. I don't know. I'll just pretend like it doesn't happen.
Sure, I don't know. I'm not noticing any delays on my end.
Okay, that's interesting. So, yeah, I think these are good skills. These are good leadership skills to have.
So how do you
And then,
develop charisma? How do you develop charm?
oh, I'm sure there's tactics, there's techniques, there's words you can say, there's hack things that you can do. You can acknowledge somebody, you can make them feel good, you can charm them, you just
Yeah, so
compliment them.
this is where you're going back to Bustamante again and trying to get get those CIA skills.
Yeah, yeah, and hopefully you mean it. I mean, you don't have to mean it, but and to some extent, it's just getting out of yourself. It's just not being so selfish about what you want. Actually, maybe trying to be nice to somebody. I know this is a foreign concept to you, Chris, but it is possible.
Trying to get out of yourself. What do you mean?
Yeah, like get out of yourself. Like basically, stop worrying about yourself all the time. Be outwardly focused and actually be interested in the other person.
Yeah. How does that make
Yeah.
you charming?
It makes you charming because the other person realizes, oh, maybe this guy actually cares about me. He gave me a little compliment that was actually true, that it didn't feel like it was manufactured or whatever. But
Because one
like
thing I
like for
noticed.
instance, you actually have some good qualities about you.
Gee,
You get what I'm
you're so
saying?
charming.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I was so
See?
we went to my daughter's school had their whatever open house or whatever they call back to school night, and we went
Yeah.
yesterday and we were going to see all the teachers, and one of the comments I heard was that some people had some negative comments about one of the teachers, and
Yeah.
when she took that same class in junior high, everyone loved the teacher, and
Hmm.
it isn't a fair comparison. The teacher in junior high has been doing it 30 some odd years, and the teacher in the high school has been doing it like 8 or 9. But I think there's a huge amount of it is character because when the high school teacher compliments the students, he says, "You're all doing a great job. You are all good. You know, I'm
Yeah.
always impressed by all of you."
Yeah.
Whereas the junior high school teacher, he knows everyone's name. He calls them
Yeah.
out by name, and he will actually
Yeah.
criticize them and then right away say something good about them. But that criticism shows he knows them individually. He goes,
Yeah. Right.
you're always talking in the middle of a lesson. You got to come back on that. But you're playing those
Yeah.
3 different instruments in those 3 different bands, and you're doing really good at it. Or you're always you're always argumentative, or you're always talking, and whatever it is, whatever aspect it is, he lets them know. So I think that's the charm, right? He lets them know
Yeah.
that he sees them individually,
Yeah. It's very
whereas the high
personal.
school
Yeah.
teacher sees them as a group.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think maybe that's the charm.
Could be. I mean, that's certainly a technique. I'm sure if you studied it, I'm sure you could discover multiple techniques on how to do that. And some people just do it naturally, and other people develop it over time.
Well, I think is that where, because I mean, we talk about EQ being one of the buzzwords in the last decade or so, and emotional intelligence is that where the charm falls into play, or is it a subset of charm, or is it something else?
Oh gosh, I don't really know, Chris. I haven't really broken it down. I think it's really cool what you're doing. I'll have to think about that because, yeah, that's interesting. I don't know. I don't know. But for next session, I'll have something to say about this. I think that's really interesting.
So I never thought of the mirror or the it's not opposite, but the counterbalance to charisma was charm. It never occurred to me that that's what it was.
That's so interesting.
And so it was an interesting way to have it framed. And I don't know. I mean, that's something I've been thinking about. Thinking, is this an element? Is this a piece of? Is this a skill set that is required for leadership?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, exactly. Because a good leader, I mean, there's multiple qualities, and I haven't researched this, so I'm just spewing off at the mouth like I normally do. But I mean, one of the things a good leader does is he presents a vision that's clear that everybody can get around, and it's usually always positioned into the positive.
Okay, but that's a different thing, right? That's not charisma, and that's not charm. That's communication, vision. That's a different skill.
Yeah, no, that's a different skill. Yeah, it's vision, right? And then here's how the charisma and charm comes into play, is that he can now specifically talk to certain people in the audience about how they can be part of that particular vision.
Mm-hmm.
Because he knows you personally, and in your mind, you're thinking, oh my gosh, he's actually including me in this vision and I can be part of it. And now inside what I would feel is that, oh, now I'm part of something bigger than myself. And that makes me feel really good.
Yeah. So that would be, see, again, if I go back to the idea that charisma is big groups and charm is individually, then you use the charisma to deliver the vision. You use the charm to connect it to the people, to the person.
I think so. I mean, that sounds reasonable to me. Yeah, right. It's just as long as just a general rule. I mean, I haven't really broken it down, but I just want to make sure everybody's included in this thing, right? I think every single person here, we need you to hit this vision. Mm-hmm. Everybody's important, regardless of what your role is. Even if you're the janitor emptying the garbage can, you're important.
How you deliver that message is important. I remember one time, company I used to work at, there was, the guy was trying to say, all of us here are important. Everyone from this team on the left over to this team on the right, everyone from the policy team to the HR team. And then he said something like from this team, and he went up and then he went down to customer service.
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, no, that's not the gesture you want. You don't want this gesture. One's better than the other, right?
Yeah, right.
Left and right is equal height. But you should have seen that it was meant to be an inclusive term, but it pissed off the customer service team.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Right. Because now I'm below everybody else, right?
Yeah, and so that was a faux pas, definitely
that doesn't charm
for the leader. Right? No charm there at all. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he wasn't a particularly charming guy, so.
Yeah, and in that particular case, Chris, what it was is he probably just got coached, and he's like, "Oh, if I just say these words,
the words were fine, right? It was the gesture that went with it."
Yeah, but that was subconsciously. He didn't believe that. So yeah. I think that was the problem. He didn't fundamentally believe it at its core. Right?
I mean, that's one of those things that like a politician wouldn't do. They would know never to go top down.
Yeah.
They would know to go this and this, left hand, right hand, boom and boom, boom and boom.
Yeah. Flatten the organization. Everybody's important.
Everyone's equal. Yeah.
And each person has a different role, but everybody is equally as important.
Yes.
Now, so maybe not everybody's getting paid about the same. Maybe not everybody has the same intelligence, but everybody's important.
It's one thing. So when you see something like that, they screwed up because the message that was heard was not the message they meant to get across, right?
Well, no, I would challenge that to say that they probably meant that. They
believe that, right? They believe that. The message you're trying to get across, you may or may not believe.
Yeah, right, exactly. And
Right.
he probably didn't fake it good enough, and it came out.
Yeah.
Ultimately, it'll come out.
Yeah. I mean, what you believe and what you say don't always have to align, which is unfortunate, but it's true.
Yeah, I mean, it's best if they do, right?
I think the authenticity comes through when it's true. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, because you just broke character at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I've heard Andrew Bujmani talk about that. He goes, it's like, I'm good at that particular skill, but it eats you alive because you know that I'm manipulating this person solely to get some sort of benefit out of it. And I know this person is going to be harmed deeply because of that betrayal, actually. But I'm willing to do that because I think my country is more important. But he goes, it still sucks. It horribly sucks,
Well, this is why the ends justify the means is a slippery slope. How do you draw a box around it, right? So you're saying I'm fixing I'm doing something good for the masses, for the people, for the country, for the whatever.
Yeah.
Right? And so therefore I can take some actions that are somewhat negative.
Yeah, harmful to somebody else, right?
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what, pretty much anybody, you can justify anything using that logic, right?
Oh, I can justify anything. I think that's what and maybe that's just building the ability to see things through other eyes, or being able to argue another point. But
Yeah.
I can build an argument for pretty much anything.
Yeah.
If it's something I believe, I can usually build a better argument, but I can probably build a pretty damn good argument for stuff I don't believe in as well.
Yeah. We call that spin, right? It's a very common skill.
Yeah, well, the problem with most spin is that it's done on the fly, so there's not a lot of thought behind it. It's when it's really well thought out, you can come up with usually a very strong argument to present whatever side you want to present.
Oh yeah, exactly. That's exactly right.
Right.
Yep.
So I was listening to YouTube yesterday, and you know how they have the live channels, people showing live stuff, and there was some guy that said, "I'm an atheist, prove me wrong." So he had people coming in trying to argue the existence of God with him, and the people coming in were all emotional. They had no argument. And so, and I'm sitting there listening to the argument going, no, that's not what you say. This is what you say if you want to argue with this guy. This is what you want to say if you want to argue with this guy, right? One of the arguments was, what created God, or who created God, or who created the first thing? And I said, why do you assume something has to create the first thing? There's an assumption you have that you start with nothing and something is created. Why is that the default assumption?
Yeah,
right.
Because you challenge the assumption.
If you challenge that assumption, then their entire argument is now not relevant anymore.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Right. Well, the whole argument is broken. It's like, I believe this, prove me wrong. It's like, okay, I'm just, why? I don't even play that game. I mean, I don't care. Believe whatever you want.
Because it got me to listen and got other people to listen, I'm sure. Why else would they do it?
Yeah, but the burden of proof is on the person making the claim.
It should be, yeah. You're right. It should be. And honestly, he did a pretty good job arguing it in my mind. But I kept looking at it as the strength of the argument and how would I attack that argument and what would be the problem with that argument. Like, you're making this claim, and then I would hear someone from the audience who was arguing from belief and not from logic, or not from a debate standpoint, and so they were not able to articulate their viewpoint very well.
Well, if I was in that, I wouldn't argue at all. I'd be like, well, you're making the claim, so it's your job to prove that there's no God.
Well, then he's in control. You just say, "Oh, that's not the discussion I want. I want you to make your claims. Give me your evidence, and I'll dismantle it." That's what he's trying to do.
Well, in that case, I take my toys and go home. Right? I don't want to play.
Yeah. But I think the funny thing was, anyone who wanted who agreed with him, he was like, "Thank you, bye bye," and he just said goodbye to them because he was trolling for the argument.
Yeah.
So.
Perfect. Yeah. I get that.
But I thought it was interesting because as I'm listening to this, I'm like, how can I argue the other side? How can I argue this side or that side or the other side? Because to me, that's the mental exercise we're talking about. How would I dismantle their argument?
Oh, so you want to argue? So wait, what are you trying to do then? Are you trying to
when I'm
prove
listening, yeah.
God, or are you just trying to dismantle their argument?
So
Because those are different things.
his argument was obviously there is no God because well, one of the things, right? Who depend on who he was talking to. His argument was there's no God because who created God? Who created the first thing, right?
Yeah,
And and everyone was trying to argue with him on this, and I'm like, just attack the premise. The assumption is there was nothing and then there was something. Why couldn't there be something from the beginning?
Yeah, right. That's the general argument, right? Exactly.
And once
God
once you have that, then you have to define the something, and something could be God, the something could be the universe, the something I don't know what the something is, right?
Yeah,
Even the Big Bang has a something in the beginning. Something went bang
yeah,
in the Big Bang,
right?
right? So there is
big way,
something.
right?
So what created the thing that went bang in the Big
Yeah,
Bang theory?
right.
There's always
Yeah,
the source of if you believe nothing is the original state of the universe.
that's a big assumption, right?
Yeah, but that's the assumption that a lot of people make.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I think in this case, if you're arguing well and not just trying to get clickbait, which I love clickbait, but then you have to say, the introduction to the start, these are the assumptions that I'm making.
Yeah,
and then we have to argue from there.
I would agree with that. Or if it were a debate, I would attack your assumptions and you would attack mine.
Yeah, and it's hard, right? Because there's no way to prove or disprove that because we just don't know. I don't even know if it's possible even to figure out.
So then we have to say,
right?
Can we agree to have this discussion with the idea that nothing was the first state? And I'm like, oh, I don't know if I can agree with that.
Yeah, right.
Because and then the point of the debate becomes moot because if we can't agree on the premise for the conversation, how are we going to have a conversation? Anyway, no, I was listening to that yesterday, and it occurred to me how much I really enjoy listening to good conversation and good debate.
Well, yeah, it's fun. It's intellectually stimulating, right? That's why you like it.
Yes, and when I hear someone who can't argue, I feel bad for them.
Well, that's a different skill set. Maybe they're not supposed to argue. It's a different skill set.
Argue meaning reason, logic, right? The ability to coherently. Well, and a lot of it is if you believe something, but you've never thought about why you believe it.
Yeah, right.
We'll call it self-reflection or whatever you want, but I believe this. Why do I believe that? Well, I believe that because of these values or how I was brought up or whatever it is that leads to that. Right? Yeah. Thinking about that is important. Why do I think this way on this topic? Why am I reacting this way on that topic?
Yeah, it's probably a bunch of reasons. Probably just that's how you were made, right? Or whatever forces made you, part of your DNA, part of your, learning, part of your environment. It all somehow plays in some sort of, different way.
Yeah. And everyone should be like me because I'm right.
Yeah, exactly. I think you're exactly right. You should be right. But here's my thought, though. Is like, if everybody was like you, what a boring world this would be.
What do you mean we'd be arguing all the time?
No, you wouldn't. There'd be no arguments happening, Chris, because you'd all be in perfect agreement with everything.
No, what happens is I have two different opinions on a topic. I'll just argue with I argue with myself in my head. If there's multiples of me, we can have that argument verbally out loud.
Oh, yeah. Right? I think there's medication to help.
Having two contradictory opinions in your mind is actually a skill. It's an ability.
That is more of an advanced thing. Yeah,
and I honestly, that's one reason why I can argue one side or the other without letting the emotion override my thinking.
Yeah.
Right. And so I do think everyone should want to have that ability to some extent because I think it gives you the tools to really be in a position to think through someone else's opinion or someone else's idea, and then hopefully
I'm going to argue against that. I don't know that that's a critical skill to have. I think it's a critical skill for some people to have, but not for everybody.
No, I'm going to argue it's good for everyone.
Good for everybody, actually?
Yeah.
There you go. All right.
Well, the idea is I think it's a critical skill to be able to be empathetic to other people's opinions. And I think if you're empathetic to other people's opinions, then the reaction you would have towards them is going to be more constructive as opposed to just reactionary.
I think for me, a really important rule is seek first to understand and then to be understood. And as a tactical,
that's what I'm saying.
Well, I was actually surprised. I was actually, in this case, Chris, I'm going to agree with you. So I know it's very rare, actually. And then, what I was going to say before you interrupted me was that
you're right.
That was basically what you're saying is that's a tactical way to implement that kind of idea, theory, right?
Yes.
Is steelman their argument. It doesn't matter if you agree with it or not, but at least that at least lets you walk in their shoes. That lets you turn around and see the world from their perspective for a minute. And what that does, is it connects you together, right?
I mean, the hardest thing, first of all, is understand what they're saying.
Yeah, right.
Then try to understand why they're saying it.
Yes.
Then try to understand how you might come to the same conclusion.
It could be. Yeah, I don't know if you want to go that far.
Well, the reason why I like going there is I think that builds empathy. What in life would make me believe that?
Yeah.
Because then I can understand,
actually.
You've had trauma in your life, and that's why you react this way in this situation. I haven't had that trauma, but if I recognize, trauma might make me think that way, then I'm going to have potentially a better understanding of what caused you to be the way you are, which then helps me to communicate with you, right?
Absolutely.
I'm not going to say you're going to be right. You have to research, to talk, to interview, to figure this stuff out. But if you just make the mind shift of, wow, that's what they think. I wonder why they think that way. I wonder what could happen in my life to make me think that way.
Yeah, that's empathy. That's really good. Yeah.
And when you get to that point, then you're at a point where you're open to have a conversation. And if you can connect with that person, maybe you can clarify certain things either towards their opinion or towards your own opinion, to where you both become closer in alignment to the way you think. I'm not saying identical, but closer.
I think that's good. Hey, I want to put this on pause just for a second, actually.
All right.
Because I'm getting bored of this conversation.
All right.
And I want to bring up something else that is, I think, kind of psychotic. I'm almost thinking I'm a nutcase for bringing this up.
Okay, well, I can answer that already, but go ahead.
Yeah, exactly. So I was reading an article, and this was like in a scientific journal article. I need to go back and find it again, but it was talking about intuition, and I don't know why. Somehow my intuition just connected this, and it said that intuition is basically in some way that we're connecting to the future, and we're getting data brought from the future into the present, and that there's some mechanism in the human body that does that. And at first I'm thinking that's like ludicrous. And then I started thinking, okay, wait a minute, but what if there's even a tiny bit of truth to that? Or is that even possible to be true?
Let me go get my pyramids and crystals and I'll let you know.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Given probabilities, is there a possibility that we have a way to transcend space-time and to somehow communicate with another version of ourselves, either in a different point in time, or maybe it's a different point in space? I don't know. Would that be a fair way to frame that?
I think so. It depends on how you define time, which I've been thinking about.
Yeah, I heard a definition about change is the description of the world at a particular point in time.
Yeah, so what they're thinking of is what's some of these physicists are talking about, the fact that we think in time as a linear flow, and it's not. They're thinking that's not the right way to think about time. Think of time as just another coordinate.
Sure.
That you can move between.
Yes.
And so when you start thinking about that changes the very definition of how we view time.
Does it?
Yeah.
Because how we view time is how we experience time.
like it'd be through a flow, right? It's
That's
just
and
flow.
that's
Like,
how we experience time, right? So
yeah,
regardless of what time really is or is not, we experience
yeah.
time as a flow,
I think so most of the time. Yeah,
right?
I would say maybe not all the time, but generally, yeah.
So
Most,
you
yeah,
can make the
absolutely.
claim that time in and of itself is just another coordinate in space,
Yes, right. Yes,
in whatever in the time space continuum,
yeah.
and be actually perfectly right. But that doesn't mean we experience it like an
Oh,
x, y, or
correct.
z,
100%. Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
right?
exactly right. And in fact, they're going on to say that in fact, if you really dig into Einstein's equations, you'll see that that perfectly describes that's a perfectly result of the equations or the equation modeling reality, which I thought was kind of interesting. And these are not crystal people; these are like high-end physicists starting to think in terms of this.
I don't understand how. I don't understand what impact this is supposed to have. What are you saying, that we can navigate through time?
I'm not saying that. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm just thinking that is there any possibility of that being true? And if it is, that kind of changes our reality of what I think is true. Because apparently, then what I think is true could just be my version of how I see things.
Well, what you think is true is just how you see things. It's your specific reality, which is the real world filtered through your mindset.
Yeah,
And
that's
my
pretty damn
my
fair. Yeah.
my truth is my reality filtered through my mindset. And
Yeah.
there are aspects that we share, right? The ability to see colors, gravity, the kind of love of logic and critical thinking, all these things make us more in alignment than not. But that my perceived reality is not identical to your perceived reality, right? Now, what is real, what the non-perceived reality or whatever, the non-measured reality or whatever you want to say, there is probably some kind of an objective reality, but we all see things through a mindset, so it's always our perception of that real reality.
Yeah, which means that no one person actually has the truth.
No, they don't. Now, if you can somehow change your filter that you see things through to allow you to alter the time, I don't know if that makes you a time traveler or not, but I guess in theory, if you can break your perception of time the way you and I see it right now to something else, maybe.
Well, yeah, I think that happens all the time. You can take drugs and do that, for one thing.
No, I just think that's biochemical stuff going on in the head. I don't think there is anything outside the body going on there. I
That's
personally think that's
interesting.
all inside the body, actually.
Could be. It could be, and it could not be. It's like I don't know.
Right. So now, when you get someone who's guiding you through those meditations and those drug things, I think they're helping you to understand parts of yourself and see parts of yourself and expand that way. But I really don't think there's an external consciousness or anything that's coming into play there.
Well, how would you prove that? I mean,
How would I
if you're
prove the?
yeah, how would you even know if it's even true? I'm not saying it's not true. I'm just saying if you're making that claim, how would you prove that?
Well, I can't prove a negative, first thing, but how would I try to reinforce the idea? I would have people in different elements, different places experience the same exact thing. Experience the same triggers, whatever the drug is or the coaching is, whatever, in a variety of environments to see if the environment had an impact on what happened in their head.
Okay.
And the more you would say, it's not a complete proof, but the more you would say they have similar experiences, the more I would argue then it's internal to the person, regardless of where they're at. Now, you could also argue that whatever this external force is that people claim is universal and doesn't matter where your physical presence is, right? That would be one argument. It's another dimension, another plane, another whatever.
Yeah,
And I would have a hard time. They would have a hard time proving that to me, and I would have a hard time disproving that.
Yeah, that's interesting. So would it even be possible from our perspective even to prove or disprove that?
Now, if
It
you're
may be
biased to think it,
unprovable.
if you're biased to think that this is an external dimension, that when you take drugs you're unlocking an external dimension, I don't know how you can disprove that or prove that, right? But
Yeah, that
given the
makes
way
sense.
the mind works, given the way things like psychoses work and split personalities and just the sheer complexity of the mind and what it can do, I'm much more inclined to believe that drugs just change the barriers in your head that lets you delve into areas of your own mind that you don't normally delve into. I mean, the brain in and of itself is such an amazing thing and such a complex thing, and it's a universe into itself that if you unlock aspects of your brain, there's a lot there to go into without having to bring in some external force.
Yeah. That doesn't mean the external force doesn't exist.
It doesn't mean it doesn't
means that-
exist, but in my
Yeah.
mind, my explanation is the simplest explanation. And in general, I go to the simpler explanation when you start getting into this kind of thing.
Oh, Occam's
Occam's razor.
Occam's razor. Yeah. And I don't disagree with that because I would assume, be careful with the word assume, that's probably, so what it's stating is that usually, most of the time, which means more than half the time, usually the simplest explanation of something is probably going to be the right answer. Not exclusively, not 100% sure, but usually.
Yeah.
If you had to flip a coin, I'd go with that.
So if I had an explanation of it's all inside your head, it's an external dimension, it's an external force, it's an external whatever. Right? Like I said, we can do a certain amount of testing to try to eliminate as much of the external world that we can control. But again, if it's another dimension, I don't know how you control that. But if the explanation is it's all in the biochemistry of your head versus there's some external thing going on, the in your head seems to me to be the simpler explanation. Right. And I do this a lot. I'll think through 4 or 5 ideas on something and I'll say, what's the probability of one of these being right? And usually I can come up with a weighted probability, but sometimes I can't. And when I can't, then I start looking at things like this. How complex is this explanation versus that explanation?
Yeah. So as an engineer, what I would do is I'd be like, okay, I need to put measurement on this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can't measure it, then I can't say anything about it. I don't know. I just don't know what it is. Right?
See, and that's where we differ. Cause like you say you can't put anything you can't make a claim about it because you can't measure it. And my thought is when I can't measure it, what can I use to make a judgment call? And that's when I get to something like Occam's razor.
Yeah, I mean, these are really rough rules of thumb, but my thought is if I can't measure it, I mean, I could probably assume that's right because that sounds reasonable to me, but I'm just making that up in my head. I don't know for sure that's true. You know?
Well, Scott, but that's part of being human is that even when you've calculated something out and figured it out, are you ever 100% sure? You're pretty sure. Your logic says this. Your understanding of science says this. But at the end of the day, you know, part of being a good scientist is understanding you could be wrong.
Yeah, here's the thing with science is that assuming I can measure it, assuming I can reproduce it, I can put up a process. Let's say we want to make a cake, right? And I made a good cake. And I'm going to send this recipe to 500 other scientists, and they're going to report back. It's like, yeah, I did this thing. I followed your directions, and yeah, pretty much about the same thing came out, except for a couple. And then a couple of like, no, it didn't work at all. And I'm like, what? Wait, what? Hey, that makes no sense. And then I start digging into the data, and I found that these 2 other guys that didn't work out live at like 18,000 feet. And then I'm starting to think, ooh, I wonder if there's more variables, or I wonder if somehow their location changed the outcome of the cake in some way.
In the scenario where you sent out this cake recipe and a few people didn't get the results they wanted to, you were basically measuring what you knew, and you said, okay, based upon my measurements, I think this is the way it is. This is the best recipe ever.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So let's say you don't have the same criteria there, and now you're trying to figure out how good a recipe is this? And so
Yeah, right.
then you're going to judge, well, it doesn't use many ingredients, so it's pretty cheap to go. So that's why I'm going to say it's a good recipe. Or you start coming up with other things that are, yeah, even that's a measurement. So you come up with some other thing. Well, even my complexity is a measurement, right? I'm saying I've got a complex solution and a simple solution. I don't know which one's right, but I tend to value simple solutions as more likely to occur, and therefore I'm gonna select the simple one. I've got no evidence on this. But if I feel I need to make a judgment on this, I'm going to say I think it's more likely the simple solution is the right solution, right? So the only difference here is the amount of measurable criteria that you can put into the situation. It varies, but I'm still using a measurement there, even in that
Yeah, you're
scenario,
measuring, right? You're measuring. You're most of the time this is how it works. Usually the
right?
simplest solution
And the
tends to
better
win.
the science, the better the measuring.
Maybe the other way around. The better the
No,
measurement, the better the
I think the better the
science.
science, the better you can measure.
Okay, yeah, no, see, I'm like,
Proper
I'm going the
science
other
is
way.
in figuring out how to measure. The science is when you figure out how to measure.
Hang on just a second. I guess how you define science, you define it a little differently than I do, actually. I guess that's fair enough because we call it the science of measurement, right? So it's a whole thing of how to measure things properly.
Yeah, so
Matter of meteorology
I
or
would
something.
say an experiment is just a structured way to measure something.
Structured way to measure. You have to define what measurement means. We always go down in the weeds, right? On this.
So why do I need to define measure? What do you think measure means?
What do I think measure means? So in this particular case, I'm going to say that measurement means either a dimension or like a weight. I'm going to limit it to those two things to start out with.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't consider that at all. Those are forms of measurements, yes, but I'm going to say there is some aspect of the universe that occurs that I want a way to quantify.
Yeah,
And
fair
that
enough,
could
actually.
be,
And we'll call
right?
that measurement. That's fine.
Yeah. And so basically, when I'm doing an experiment, I'm saying A is going to happen, B is going to happen, C is going to happen, and then I'm going to quantify what comes out of that. So my
Yeah,
ability to test something is my ability to quantify what happens.
consistently across anybody. So the
Well,
idea is if we
that's
were
what
to
gives it
measure the same
that's what gives
thing.
it its value, and that's what gives it the repeatability, and that's the whole scientific method. Is I do it in such a way I define what I'm going to do, and I measure it so well that other people can do the same thing.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah,
So to me,
yeah,
science, a lot of the underground of science is figuring out what I'm trying to measure, but this
yeah.
whole scientific method is how to measure that consistently.
Yeah, I think you're using measurement in a broader term than I am. But yeah, how to measure would equal to a result.
Because I think measurement is the critical is an aspect of critical thinking. If you can't measure something, you can't compare and contrast it,
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
right?
Yes.
And
Yep.
measure
Yep. Yep.
call it value. If you can't value something, and value is just a
Yeah.
form of measurement.
Well, it's interesting. I'm going to go off on a little tangent.
Sure.
So it used to be like they would define a meter as they had one reference standard, and it means the distance between two scratches on the stick, right?
Mm-hmm.
And are a particular weight of something, like of this particular thing, we're going to find this as a kilogram. And it really drove scientists crazy because literally the weight of this thing would change across times. It would shed off atoms. Even somebody touching it might shave off part of it, so the weight would change just a little bit. And it drove them crazy. So they're like, listen, we need to tie this to some sort of a physical sort of thing, like the number of times some helium atom oscillates back and forth in a period of time or something.
Mm-hmm.
Something that's a reference to nature, and not just we just put two scratches on a stick, And so I think then as time goes on, our ability to measure things becomes more and more accurate. But if we're using nature to measure it against, then that means we're assuming that the nature is not changing across time either.
No, but it's like
Because if it is, all of a sudden
it's
we're
like the
goofed.
days when the length of a foot was the king's foot.
Yeah, right.
So when
right,
the king
exactly.
dies or grows or whatever, that foot changes. So the length of things changes, right?
Yeah, yeah,
My
and
my
that's
house
not
is
as
20 feet wide, and then when the new king is born, he's a little guy, and now it's 40 feet wide. So
yeah. But still, that's better than what came before it, right? At
what
least
came
we have a
before it?
known reference standard.
What came before it?
Well, it might be that they would say a foot is just anybody's foot, right? It was approximation. So depending on the foot, it could be plus or minus some distance. Or at least now, if we're saying it's the king's foot, at least now everybody can measure against the king's foot, you know?
Okay.
So it's better.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's perfect, but it's better.
Yes, if I say something is however many fish lengths wide, and the size of the fish I catch is going to be important.
Yeah, the size you catch your fish. And then what I would do is I would take this fish and I'd create a bunch of models of these fish and I'd give everybody a fish so then they could go out.
Isn't that what they tried to do
calibrate
with all the meters and kilograms and all that kind of stuff?
I think so, and it wasn't as and it depends on how accurate you want to be. I mean, how precise.
Well, in day-to-day life, you don't need that kind of precision, but in
you don't need that. Yeah.
in scientific calculations, we got to the point where it did matter.
Like extremely precise, actually.
Right.
And then we started to see that, you know, the way we make GPS works is like, oh my gosh, it's like time changes depending on what gravity does to it. So satellites flying high up above Earth orbiting, their time, they view time differently than we do on the Earth, and we've got to actually correct for those sorts of things. Otherwise, you could be feet or meters off distance, which I thought was so interesting. Yeah, I don't know where we're going with this. I feel like I'm just meandering around now, but yeah, that's all interesting.
Well, one thing someone said this week I was listening to, they were talking about how noisy the world is and oh gosh, it was Mr. Rogers talking on.
Oh, I love Mr. Rogers.
Back in the, let's talk about him in just a second. And he was talking about how, this is in the 90s. He was talking about how the world is becoming noisier and how to filter through the noise and that sort of thing.
Yeah, right.
But he was talking about information is now more important than wonder. And I thought,
hang on, who said this? Mr. Rogers?
Mr. Rogers. Information is now currently more important to society than wonder. He's not saying it's better. He's saying that that's the problem. We care more about information than we care about wonder.
Oh, okay. I could see that.
Right?
Yeah, all right.
And then he was saying, noise is more important than science. We care more about the noise than we do about the science.
Oh, you're just saying he said that?
He said that that's what's happening in society, right? Where we're getting so much
That's
noise out there. There's so much noise coming in from politics, from journalism, from all these places that we're no longer looking at facts. We're looking at noise.
Yeah, I think that's fair because I'm evaluating the two things. One is I'm evaluating, did he actually say that, which I don't know.
It was a recording on Charlie Rose's, one of Charlie Rose's interviews.
And the second point, I'm saying, okay, do I agree with that?
Yeah.
Regardless.
So
of
it was an interesting point.
I agree with both.
Because what I thought was interesting was he said wonder and science were the two valuable things in that comment, and I was starting to think about how you view the world and how I view the world.
Yeah, right.
And I think you view the world as science, and I view the world as wonder. You view the world as an engineer, so you're using science to figure things out. And I view the world as wonder, and I'm trying to figure out what the rules of science are from my thoughts.
You're making some very broad brushstrokes.
I am. But I was, one of the things that's been reinforced to me over and over in our conversations is that as much as we both believe in science and we both believe in physics and all kind of like the way the world works, is you think differently enough that we argue a lot. Differently enough than me that we argue a lot. And quite often you want the constraint. You say, what are we trying to do here? What are we solving for here? What's this? What's that? And you want that constraint. And I'm like, I don't need the constraint yet. I'm still trying to get the big picture view of what's going on here. So I'm wondering about the entirety of the system, and you're wondering about the closed system that you're trying to solve for. So you're trying to apply science to that, and I'm trying to figure out the science for in the bigger picture. So where your mind is and where my mind is in any situation varies based upon that. So I just thought it's a thought that occurred to me.
That's not unreasonable. Of course, I think I'm right and you're wrong. Of course.
Yeah. And well, when you're trying to solve a problem, you don't need the whole universe's information to solve the immediate problem, right?
Yeah, because in my mind, that's not efficient. Because it
isn't efficient.
You still have constraints. You just have your constraints are just wider than mine.
Yes, it's my whole. You need a bigger box.
Yeah, because my thought is I'm trying to narrow constraints down so I can get to the answer.
You're trying to cut out stuff that you
possible.
think is not relevant, and I'm trying to include everything because I think it's all relevant.
Yeah, like remember we argued about the astronaut coming back. I mean, like, okay, the constraint to me that didn't need to be mentioned is we want the dude to come back alive, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
and to me, figuring out how physics work, I don't need to care if he comes back alive yet or not. I introduced that later.
Yeah, no, and I hear you, and I just plugged it into from the beginning because I'm assuming, like, we want him to come back alive, right? Would be my assumption, but that is an assumption that I'm making, and in order for me to be more precise, I should state those assumptions up front. In order to solve this problem, these are my assumptions or constraints that I'm.
Because then I could say, I just want to understand how physics works, and I don't care if he comes back alive yet or not. Because once I understand how physics works, then I could say he needs to come back alive, which means I got to keep his speed down. I've got to do this. And then once I understand how physics works, I can then change the dials on that. And you were automatically like, okay, we got to save him first. So now you're already setting dials before anything happens. You're setting the dials on all that stuff.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I don't want to set the dials yet.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think you're setting dials, but you're just the dials are more open.
Again, we all have what did we say last time? We're all in an echo chamber. I'm just trying to have a bigger echo chamber so I can see more options.
Yeah, which is interesting. Hang on, let me think that through. Because my thought is the problem will be easier to solve with the more constraints I put on it.
Yes, assuming that you go down I don't say the correct path. You go down a path that gets you towards the goal. That will be a more efficient way to do it. Is it the best way possible? You may not see other ways. You might just because your constraints are limiting you to see. You've already put in constraints that cut out other options, and so you're going down a path to solve it down one path. And I'm thinking there might be other paths to go down that if you didn't put the constraints in, we would see as well.
Yeah, that's fair. That's reasonable, actually. So then before we argue then, okay, let me scratch that. Before we try to solve a problem, we should define what the constraints are up front.
Yeah.
Like, hey, Chris, in order for this problem, the budget is $1,000. That's all we get to spend. So that's a hard constraint.
Yeah, I don't like that.
well, I know. I get that, right? But there's no point in coming back with a $5,000 solution if we only got $1,000 to spend.
Yep.
So it's best to put the hard constraints up front. Like, what are the hard constraints up front?
Yeah, and I think so. I think the approach. Well, the approach changes with what you're putting into play, right? So money and time and resources are a big one, right?
That almost always exists.
Money, time, and resources are the big one because the constraint that they have to come back alive. That's just like okay, here's the conditions for this specific problem we're solving for, right? But like time is a huge one because in that situation, time would have been critical, right? Again,
yeah. How much time do we have?
Yeah,
because if we're being attacked and we've got 2 days to solve this problem, it's like, Chris, I don't even think about what we do in a month. That's irrelevant, right? Because we'll be dead. We got 2 days. That's all we got. So we got to get a solution within 2 days.
And so that's an interesting aspect because the way you said, I don't care what we're going to do in a month. It didn't even occur to me to think, well, what am I going to do in a month? But in scoping it, say I've got 2 days to figure out a problem. What I can do is I will cut out any solution that I can't come to an answer within 2 days. right?
Yeah, this is the constraint of this particular problem right now.
The only solutions we have are ones we can come up with in 2 days.
Yeah, otherwise we're dead. And and maybe that's okay. Maybe that's not a problem. I mean, it's a problem for me if I'm the one dying in 2 days.
So
Right?
that's one of those almost universal assumptions that we probably should state as a matter of practice, that we assume we want to
Yeah.
live through this. But honestly, I'm okay if that's one we don't have to state every time we come up with a problem.
Well, and there are solutions to problems where people know going in that this is a one-way trip for me. I ain't coming back, right?
Yeah, yeah. Then we're getting into different value propositions there, though, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
sometimes the decision you make is one bad thing versus another bad thing, and you've got to decide which
Yeah,
one.
right,
Which
right.
one?
But
wins.
usually though, that assumption is stated up front. I mean, we know going in that I'm going to go on a mission, and I am probably not.
Haven't you seen every one of these movies where they don't know that's going to happen at the last minute? Only the guy who's sacrificing himself knew from the start he would have to sacrifice himself, and he kept it a secret from everyone else.
I love it. That makes a good movie. That's a good plot. Right?
Well, Armageddon was on last week, and I was watching it. I'm going, see, yeah. Anyway,
you're with your buddies, and you're like, this is a one-way trip for us, right? We're not coming back.
Yeah.
And you're like, wait, hang on. I didn't sign up for that. Yeah.
But yeah,
exactly.
It's okay.
I
had this idea that it's engineering and solving, which is the bulk of problem solving for in the last couple hundred years. It's all been an engineering problem, pretty much. Relies on science to solve problems, but I think scientists rely on philosophy, wonder, whatever, random thought to figure out problems to solve.
Oh, yeah. There's an immense amounts of creativity in that. That's what's called the logical leak. And see, that's where I'm coming back to this, is that what if, Chris, like you have a set of rules. Okay, I got this, I know gravity, I know that we got a certain budget. It's like, and it may not perfect, but I know we got about this much. And then you come to some sort of intuition about that. You're like, well, what if? There's something about that's leading me to a possibility that could be the answer. And then you're like, okay, now let's go test that. And that guess, that assumption, what is that? What is, I mean, maybe creativity, maybe it could be the future coming back to us. What is that? Let's define that thing.
So, to me, there's creativity, which is a mindset to ask questions.
Hang on. Creativity is a mindset to ask questions? Flesh that out.
What if I did this? What if that
Okay,
happened?
there you go. Yeah.
What if, right? How could this work? How could that work? So to me, creativity is asking those types of questions. And then your ability to create, to innovate, is based upon how much knowledge you have across whatever, right? So,
but what leads you to that, though? What makes that little thought pop in your head?
It's the mindset. It's the mindset of asking those questions. So,
and then, wait a minute. Hang on.
Some people don't ask questions. Some people do.
It's the mindset of asking those questions. But what I want to know is what makes your mind produce that thought.
To me, it is literally a mindset to take information that's in your head and try to plug it into other information in your head. So let's say I know how to make pasta and I know how to make chocolate. And then I go to myself, chocolate pasta. What would that look like? Well, could I put chocolate in pasta? Could I make pasta out of chocolate? Would it be chocolate sauce on pasta? And I start going through all these things, but it's two pieces of information, or it's a number of pieces of information in my head that I am now looking to see if there's a connection between. And if there,
but what causes that? What causes that thought, though? That's what I want. I want the mechanism that causes that thought.
To me, it's wonder. It literally is wonder.
No. What's the mechanism? Like, what's the, like, inside your brain? What's actually happening?
So when you
And I
ask,
know what you're gonna.
when you say something and I process it in my head,
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying, and I look in my head to see, are you saying anything else? Is there anything else in possibly what you're saying? Is there another
What do you mean?
meaning?
When you say you look in your head, what does that mean?
So I listen to the words you say, and
Yeah.
I interpret what they mean.
Okay.
And then I think about it and say, is there another meaning here as well? Could you mean something besides what my first assumption is that of what you meant?
Mm-hmm.
And then I start to think through, well, he could mean this, he could mean that. Or, oh, Scott, he just changed his diet last week. He could mean this, he could mean that. Or Scott just bought a new car. Oh, wow, I wonder if he's looking at it from this reference or from that reference. So basically, knowing what you said, then I start to look to make sure I have a full understanding of what you said. I start to ask questions about the context of what you said. In order for me to add value, I've got to add information to it from other sources, pieces of information. And so then I start to make connections that could go beyond. And eventually I get to second and third order pieces of information that could impact this. And then I say, well, what realistically, if I look at the probability of what Scott meant in that comment, the highest probability is the first thing I came up with.
Yeah, right.
The second highest probability is this other thing. The third probability is this other thing. I'm just going to assume he went with the one that's highest probability. Now, if all the probabilities are really close, I may have to clarify. Hey, Scott, what are you talking about? Are you talking about that new car you bought? And then you go, no. I'm talking about, and you go, all right, and that's how we clarify. But to me,
so it's some form of pattern matching then.
To me, what happens is I don't assume that my first understanding of something is, in fact, the correct understanding. So I begin to push at the edges of that. And to make that meaningful, I've got to pull in additional data. And I think what ends up happening is the more I do that and the further I push that, I start getting into making connections across things that are less and less related. And that's where you get the creativity aspect.
That's interesting. Okay, so then you're saying then that's how you experience it, but you don't actually understand the mechanism underneath that's making that work.
That makes me want to understand other things that you might mean. So in this case, the drive is I want to make sure I understood what you meant to say.
I'm not. I think maybe you're not getting what I'm saying. Actually, I think what you're saying is this is your experience. This is how you're experienced. But I'm talking about what's the physics of actually happening inside your brain.
The biochemistry?
The biochemistry, the neural pathway. I mean, the physical mechanism that's creating that experience for you.
So I think if you don't ask the question, so let me say this, and then you can tell me where you're applying that to. If you don't ask a question, you don't trigger the thought in your mind to make connections between pieces of information. So you don't trigger creativity without asking a question.
Yeah, but what makes you ask the question though?
Okay, and in this case, what I'm saying is because I want to make sure that I'm not misunderstanding what my understanding of the situation. So you say something, and I hear what you say, and I think you mean A. And just to be clear, I want to make sure that there aren't other possible things you could mean. I run through, well, could he mean this? Could he mean that? And the way I build that is by adding other pieces of information that give me a different context. So meaning A, this context. Could it be a different context? Let me think about some other things, other ways I might frame that. And then I pick the most likely context.
I get, okay, hang on. This is what I'm trying to say. I get that that's your experience. But I guess what I'm saying is, are you creating that? Do you have a choice in that? I guess is what I'm saying.
Well, I think there are people who don't worry about trying to think, do you mean something besides the first thing they hear? There are people who don't ask that question, who will just say they hear what you said and they assume this is what you mean. And I think this is what happens when people get into arguments all the time is, you said this, and you never said those words. They assumed in their minds that the words that came out of your mouth meant something else.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not getting where I want to go actually. What I'm trying
You're
to do is
trying to
I'm
tie
trying
it to a biochemistry aspect, and I'm not. Are you trying to say what's the difference between me asking that question and someone who never asks that question?
No, what I'm trying to get at is something more of a spiritual nature, which means, what am I trying to get at? I don't even know what I'm trying to get at. I'm trying to get at this, Chris. Is that instinctual, or is that part of like being a human and having creativity?
I would
Or
say
you're having a conversation in your head?
I would say both. I would say there's an instinctual element. Okay, put it this way. Your fan's on, right? Because something's on
Yeah.
there. Okay. If I let myself think through everything that happens, I would have died at some point in the past because something would have killed me. Some stuff you just need to react to, right? But at some point, that ability to think things through probably saved people too. So I think people have the ability some people are stronger at thinking things through, other people are stronger at being reactionary to things.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to get to is I'm trying to understand the nature of how the brain works. And I don't think we're going to be able to answer that question.
Well, if you grow up in an environment where you're safe from needing to make an immediate judgment call answer, and you're able to take the time to think things through, and that gets rewarded over time through school or whatever, then I think that process in your head becomes something that's more common, happens more commonly. I think if you're of a nature to be more reactive and not think things through at a second order level or a third order level, and you get by doing that, that's what gets the norm for you.
So here's like where I'm going with this. It's like, so we have two parts of our brain at least, right? We have the sort of reactionary part, the lizard brain, it's just purely reactionary, right? And then we've got this thinking part. The thinking part is much slower than the reactionary parts. Mm-hmm. And so there's two parts of the brain, right? So here's what I'm getting. Here's where I'm pushing towards, Chris. I was hoping you would say it, but you're not saying it. You're not giving me what I want. You're not taking the bait. So here's another part.
Well, that's because you're probably wrong, but okay, go ahead and tell me.
Yeah, no, of course I'm wrong, Chris. I mean, that's just, of course, that's the default going in, right?
So what are you trying? What are you trying to get me to say?
So this is where I want your brain to go, and this is more curiosity for me. Could there be a third part? Could there be? Hang on. Am I just gonna say this? I'm gonna say it. Could there be another force, another part, like a third part of us? We get like the thinking part, the frontal cortex part, the lizard brain, more of the back part, but there could be another force that's influencing us in how we think as well.
So first thing I'm going to say is I think the current theory is that there are three parts to the kind of the brain when you look at the different levels.
Well, what are the three parts? I'm only working.
Well, there's the animal, there's autonomic. So there's stuff that you have no control over, like your breathing. And then
that's like the lizard brain, right?
And then there's the actual reactionary fight or flight type of thing, and then there's the thinking part, if I remember correctly. But okay.
Oh, you think there's three?
I think there's three. Okay, so I think that's kind of like the generic accepted viewpoint. The last I heard.
Then in that case, I want a fourth one because I'm leaving.
All right, so
two.
You want there to be some form of, since these are three thinking nervous system mechanisms, are you thinking as a fourth nervous system mechanism, or are you trying to say it's something beyond that?
That's where I want to go. I want to know, is there some external influence on us?
And I can't think of why there should be.
You can't think of why there should be.
I can explain it all in those three levels of nervous system that we've got.
Yeah.
I don't need a more complex definition than those three.
Yeah.
And so back to Occam's razor here, the simple thing for me to assume is it falls into those three. And I think like when someone hears, I don't know, someone hears you say, if you were to make a comment pro Israel, let's say, with what's going on in the world today, and the other person hears you say that comment and then automatically assumes you support killing babies, right? And those words never came out of the person's mouth, but that's in their head, that's what they heard, right? Because in their minds, they've tied certain ideas with killing babies. And then when you said one thing, they jumped straight to that, right? And so that is a misunderstanding. And I never want to do that with the words that someone says. So when someone says, because they're attributing other values and principles that they associate with the words that came out of the person's mouth. True or not, they associate that. And so that is what they heard in their head. And so what go ahead.
Yeah, so that's how the brain is wired up. They get this little input, like that little button gets pushed, and it lights up a whole bunch of circuitry that they've tied to that.
Someone says, I like Trump. Oh, so you want to throw all the legal immigrants out of the country.
Yeah. Right.
And I'm like, he didn't say that. Maybe they think that, maybe they don't, but they never said that. But something in your head ties those things together. Someone who likes Trump wants to get rid of all aliens in the country, legal or not, right? It doesn't matter if it's true or not. What matters is in your head, you've made that connection. And you can make the connection on the other side. Someone says, someone says something about gender equality or something, and you go, oh, so you think we should have dragons and clowns, or people claim to be, dragons or clowns or butterflies. And you're like, didn't say that, right? What they said was they believe that all individuals should have right or whatever, right? So what someone hears in their head does not necessarily equate to what was said. Knowing that, I want to get as clear on what you said as possible. So I listen to what you say, and I get my first opinion on that is going to be whatever the first thing that pops into my head. Now that's a powerful, I know that I'm biased, hopefully less biased than other people, but I'm still biased. And I know that you're speaking from whatever frame of reference you're in. So the first thing I go is, I wonder if I got that right. Could Scott have meant something else when he said, he likes to run naked through the streets? What does that mean? I don't know. And I could say, oh, on a hot day or during the whatever parade where people run around with it, or I don't know what the context is. So I'm going to go through and start saying, well, Scott likes to work out outside because he gets to be in his backyard and see outside, right? And then I could start figuring out, oh, he means he likes to be in his underwear in the backyard when he's exercising. That's a totally different thing than what I thought in the first place, right? And me knowing you and the context around you allows me to come up with potential other things you mean. Now I'm going to think about all those and go, probably didn't mean that, probably didn't mean that, probably didn't mean that. Okay, what's left? Probably this is the right thing.
Yeah, and just to clarify, Chris, I only run naked outside my house on Saturdays. Just so you
see, and that makes perfect sense compared to what I was thinking earlier.
Exactly. There you go. That's exactly right.
But you get so this is how I'm wired, because I find the better I can understand something, the better I can act in that situation. And I don't want to act wrongly. I want to act correctly. So that's what drives me to think this way.
See, that's part of the seek first to understand.
Yes. And quite often seek first to understand is you are interpreting it through your own head. I'm not even asking you, Scott, what did you mean by that? I'm just going through, oh, maybe he meant this, maybe he meant that, maybe he meant that, maybe he meant that. It's because of the different elements about you that I know, I can run through all those scenarios really quickly in my head. And then at the end of it, if I've got 2 or 3 really close, really highly ranked possibilities, then I might need to say, Scott, I don't get it. What do you mean? And then you would give me the clarification on it.
Which I just did.
Yeah, you did.
Only on Saturdays, Chris.
Only on Saturdays, yes. And I didn't know that was the limitation that you had in place. So.
Gotcha. Yeah.
But
now you know.
I think that's so claiming that is curiosity or that is creativity. So what I'm saying is I think that is where creativity comes from. It's me being able to put together pieces of information to come up with a new thought. Right? And then well, what triggers it in the first place? In this case, it's me wanting to know more. And I think in my case, that is mostly what it is. When I see something on the news, when I read something, when ChatGPT tells me something, one of the first things I do is I go, I wonder if that's true. Or I wonder why that's true. Or I wonder, how could that be true? Right? Yeah. And then suddenly my mind's going, well, that could be true if this happened, if that happened. And my next question is, I wonder, did this happen? Did that happen? And I look into it. Yep, it turns out in 1988, blank, 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 it happened. Oh, crap, I didn't realize that happened. Okay, now if that happened, what else could have been the result of that? And I say, well, if that were true, then maybe A, B, and C are also true. And I say, are they true? Yeah, they are. Oh, so here's this whole chain of events I never knew anything about that now I know because of that. And that to me is the curiosity aspect of creativity. And then the more I'm able to go abreast of a topic and bring in outside topics, that's when the real creativity comes into play. That's when I'm putting together facts that no one else has put together in the past, or not very few have. And that's
right. You're likely synthesizing new information from this other stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is why I think being well-read, being a generalist really is a benefit. You can be creative in any way, because creativity is the mindset, I think. But the more you know, the wider your breadth of knowledge, the more impressive your creativity can seem, because it's crossing knowledge areas.
Problem could be benefit, could be harmful.
Yeah. And so that's why I say you don't need to think outside the box. You need a bigger box to think in. Right? The more information you bring in, the more knowledge you bring in. If you bring in a psychologist into your project, who knows what that can do to help you to come up with new ideas.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. So then let's do this, because I'm getting bored of this. Getting bored.
So you gotta get control of your boredom. Come on.
What does this all mean? Let's kind of wrap this whole what we've been talking about up into something that's actionable.
So I really think asking questions. Number one, ask questions.
Yeah.
As often as you can.
Yeah. That is actionable. It's like, just for a second, hold your judgment and just seek clarity. Ask questions.
Ask questions in your head. And if that's not working, outside your head.
Yeah. Right. That is good. That would solve a lot of problems.
Before I make a judgment on anything, let me ask at least one question.
Yeah.
And what that does is, first thing it does is it slows you down. So the emotion hopefully will get slowed down too.
It's slow. You got to slow it down. That's a basic jiu-jitsu principle. You just got to slow things down.
But the second thing it does is it makes you wonder about that what was said, or what you heard.
Yeah.
And like, did I hear that right? That would be a good question to ask.
Yeah.
Did he mean to say that? Like so one of the things that guy Fisher, or whatever, the guy, the lawyer, country lawyer who talks about how to talk to people who are jerks, right? If someone comes up and says something insulting to you, one of the things he says is just ask him, did you mean to be insulting? Did you mean to say that? How do you want me to take that? Right? And basically, that's asking a question. You're saying, hey, that was an insulting thing you just said. Did you mean for it to be insulting?
Yeah,
right. And in this case, it's on them to fix that. But even if you do that internally, let's say, I wonder if he meant to be insulting. And then you go, he did mean to be insulting. Okay, now what do? He meant to be insulting. Ooh, I could smile, I could laugh, I could insult him back, I could hit him, I can do all these things.
But you get to choose. Now you get to choose, right?
So instead of getting insulted and hitting him, now I get insulted and I laugh at him, which laughing at someone who's trying to insult you is a great way to respond.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And that's who's the negotiation guy?
Chris
he always
Voss.
says, label it. Like, oh, it seems like you meant this, or it appears like did you really, maybe not even do, but it appears like, or it seems like you meant that. And they're like, oh, no. Now, are they like, you're a total jerk. Yeah, let me be clear.
Well, if you call people out on it, that's the thing. People don't call people out on things. So that's why we put
Yeah.
up with so much, right? When we see someone acting badly for various reasons, we don't step up and say things about it. And a lot of it's safety, and
Yeah.
there's a variety of reasons why we do it that makes sense. But if people knew that they were going to be called out for being a jerk or an asshole,
For being bad
um,
behavior. Yeah.
more people would probably not, or fewer people would act that way, right? Because
Yeah.
it's the
Yeah.
consequences. If you don't face consequences for bad behavior, then, and so that's what calling it out is, saying, did you mean to do that? And they go, yeah, I did mean to insult you. I go, oh, well done.
Yeah. Right. But at
Right?
least you understand now. Now we're clear on what's happening.
Right. But the most people will not admit to trying to be a jerk.
No.
Right?
Some people will.
Yeah, and I bet you those people will probably are much more likely to laugh about it than, because there's a self-awareness there that I don't mind being a jerk,
Yeah.
right? Whereas someone who's trying to bully you doesn't want to appear like they were bullying you.
Yeah. What do they call that? It's like a backhanded compliment, or it's something. It's like where they're getting a little piece of you, but they're like, oh, I didn't really mean that. It's like, well, yeah.
Well, there's a lot of passive aggressive people
That's what it is.
right.
Passive aggressive. Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
think one of the things to call out is, because how do you want me to take that? Because even though you said this is what I took away from that. Is that
Yeah,
what you
right,
want?
right.
Right. And
Yeah.
again, this, if you approach it that way, you're being very clinical about it. You're just asking for clarification. You're not
Yeah, you're
judging
asking
it.
for- Yeah.
Right.
You're not
And
judging.
it's when you judge it and you get angry and emotional that other people are going to just see you as an emotional person. Whereas if you
Yeah.
can ask this question, suddenly people see you as in control of yourself.
Well, and you want to be in control, because I know there's a lot of people who say that if somebody else says something or does something and you fly off the handle, they're now controlling. Oh,
Yeah.
Jocko, the Seal said that. It's like, and that's just unacceptable. It's like you're gonna get your day all shaken up because some guy made some comment to you that doesn't even matter, that doesn't even know you. I mean, dude, if that's the case, you're so out of control. You're a disaster.
But this is why laughing when someone insults you is one of the best things you can do. Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I know some people will say ignore it, or ignore it, one, call it out, two. Or my thought is just laugh, because it means that your insult meant nothing to me. And
Yeah, and that was funny. That was Jocko saying his thing is like, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
all right, there you go.
think what you want.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
It's because quite often, if someone's willing to say that in that type of way,
Yeah.
they're expecting a reaction out of you.
Oh, they're looking. Yeah, they're probably. Let me just see how. Let me just. I can.
I mean, if you watch some of these comedians who get heckled, quite often they'll
Yeah.
say, "Good point,"
Good point. Yeah, exactly.
right? They'll get insulted and
Exactly.
they'll say, "Good point, yes," and then they'll reverse the insult back to the other person, right? They're really
Yeah.
good at that.
And that's and the audience loves that. It's like that's what I come for. It's like
Yes.
I want to show. You know.
Well, and it's a level of banter that it shows intelligence, which I think we all admire intelligence to an extent, right?
Oh
So
yeah. Yeah.
it shows intelligence when you're able to do that, which is why we like a good debate. And a good debate is one where they're not getting emotional, and
Yeah,
they're
right.
they're very much able to make their points. And a good debate, you can attack the other person. You just
Yeah.
you got to make sure that you're not being emotional in the attack.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what we're supposed to do today, weren't we supposed to argue and use one of the fallacies or something like that?
Yeah, let's do that, and let's wrap it up a little early if you're okay with that, actually. So I
All right.
studied the ad hominem attack, which is
Oh,
basically
okay. The ad hominem
which is
attack.
an attack on the person,
Yep.
instead of their actual argument.
Yep.
And so I'm going to start out with saying that is the ugliest green shirt I've ever seen anybody wear before. And therefore, I'm going to discount everything you said for the last 90 minutes, Chris. Because
Sure.
nobody in their right mind would wear a green shirt that looks like that.
Yeah, Costco might agree with you on that because I bought it on sale there. So
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
right. So let's say, so if you were to say, obviously you've got bad taste in clothing, so obviously you're going to have bad opinions as well,
Obviously.
Right?
And the
It's what you're
hat, it's
saying.
like, here's the thing, Chris, your hat. It's like, I think your logic is goofed up, Chris, because probably your head's overheating with that hat.
I did get this in England. Maybe I'm thinking like an Englishman.
Maybe so. There's something going on with your argument.
Marks and
Absolutely.
Spencer, yeah, England. Where is it? Probably made in China. Made in China, though. So maybe I'm thinking like a Chinese
Everything was made in
Chinaman.
China, right? So I think that's pretty clear. I think your head was overheating.
What do you do though if someone attacks you like that? What do you do?
Well, okay, so here's the thing, right? One thing is it may not necessarily be wrong. It's just, I mean, the flag firm, I mean, if you're attacking somebody personally, but you maybe, if I'm looking for a high-end engineer to give me a solution for something, and somebody comes up that's not an engineer and just says something, I'm like, my first thought is, I don't know how valuable your input is because you're not an engineer. You don't have any expertise in this particular area. Now, here's the problem, right? That is probably right most of the time, but it doesn't mean that that particular argument that they're saying is necessarily faulty just because they're not an engineer. And that's the part that you could possibly throw out a really good idea because it's not packaged how you want to see it.
So then this is like a reverse of the appeal to authority. So an appeal to authority is, I know more about this topic than you do, so obviously I'm right.
I mean, it could be. I mean, your probability goes up, but it doesn't mean you're obviously right.
It's like my butcher studied nuclear physics and you didn't. So I know more about nuclear physics than you do.
Okay, all right. Yeah, maybe. Okay,
right.
Probably not, but all right.
It's the appeal to authority.
Yeah.
What is it? 4 out of 5 dentists recommend Trident for their patients that chew gum.
Mm-hmm.
That's an appeal to authority,
and it works, and it could be right,
Well, no,
I want to know what the fifth guy.
Let's assume that they're right. 4 out of 5 dentists do that. The point being, what relevance does that have to the specifics of our argument?
Well, if a dentist is making a recommendation about something with dental wise, I would tend to listen more than somebody else.
If your argument is that artificial sweeteners are worse for our body than sugar, and I turn around and say 4 out of 5 dentists recommend sugarless gum for the patients that chew gum.
Yeah.
And you're going, well, that sounds relevant. And I'm using an appeal to authority to attack you. But that wasn't your claim. Your claim had nothing to do with chewing gum, had nothing to do with whatever the relevance that question was. Maybe they're saying they recommend it over candy, or they recommend it over chocolate, or they recommend it over whatever, right? Your claim is that artificial sweeteners are worse than sugar. That's all you're saying.
Well, you have to define the constraints around in what area.
So in other words, I'm using an appeal of authority, and I'm changing when I change the actual argument to something else.
But let's go back to the ad hominem attack, right?
Yes.
I don't know why you switched. I mean, because I want to
because you're going beyond an ad hominem attack. An ad hominem attack is an attack on my character, and saying that therefore I can't argue something well.
Yeah, it's more of a personal attack. Yeah, right.
So you could say that you claim to be a green environmental person, and yet you fly on jets to other countries.
Yeah, but here's the thing, though, Chris. It doesn't necessarily invalidate the argument, but it could point to that. So it's not an automatic fallacy. It doesn't automatically mean that that's incorrect. It just points to it.
But instead of you making a point about the argument, you are now trying to score points on against the person. That's the ad hominem attack.
Yeah, that could be the.
I'm trying to weaken your argument by attacking you, not your argument.
Yeah, and sometimes it could be right. It could be right.
Right. So you see it in politics all the time. Right, when someone goes, "Oh, my opponent believes that whatever that the Bill of Rights should be expunged from the Constitution, and that none of us should have freedom of speech." Right?
Or maybe one that it's like, who are you to lecture me on morality when you just cheat on your wife?
Yeah. You've been married 4 times. How can you lecture me on family and having kids?
Yeah, and the thing is, Chris, is that It doesn't necessarily invalidate the argument, but it does point in that direction, though, right?
Well, but the idea here is you're talking about the quality of the argument, right?
yeah, right.
The value it brings has nothing to do with the attack. It has to do with other aspects. So when you're calling into the question their expertise, you're using an ad hominem attack, but you're really the attack that's attacking their argument is their expertise.
Is their behavior in a particular case, right? Or something about them.
Their behavior, but you're saying that, your lived experience does not align with the things you're saying.
Yeah, right. You're incongruent, actually, and I'm attempting to personally attack you, which is interesting because now I'm thinking of a comeback. It's like, well, here's my thing. It's absolutely right. I've been married 4 times, divorced 3 times, right? 4th one. But of those experiences, this is what I learned, right? And this is how I can speak with authority about this now. So there is ways to overcome that. But I guess what I'm getting at, Chris, is just because it's an ad hominem attack doesn't make it not true. Or let me rephrase that. It doesn't make their point valid. That's what I just want to be careful.
It doesn't make what point valid? Sorry.
So if let's say they're making a point, right? And so typically, what this is how it always plays out.
Which side is they? That's what.
Okay, this side is they. Okay, let's say that. Let's just say somebody is saying something like, okay, gosh, what am I going to say? I can't even think of an example. But let's say they're speaking to somebody about an engineering principle, and they're not an engineer; they're a marketing person, right?
Yes.
So my thought is, well, you're a marketing person, so you don't know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So in that particular case, people will come back and say, oh, that's an ad hominem attack, which means that, but it doesn't mean that what they're talking about is still right. That's the part I want to be clear on.
It doesn't mean that the marketing person is still right. Well, who's
no? It means the person making that claim that you're not an engineer, you're a marketing person. What do you know about? Then the other person, oh, that's an ad hominem attack. So therefore, what they're saying is correct. That's what I don't want to do. And that's the assumption in the argument. Right?
You're assuming that the ad hominem attack negates the point they're making.
Yes,
and you're saying it shouldn't.
Right. It shouldn't. It requires a little bit more careful nuance than that. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah. So how would you? But how could you? Let's say you make the same point. You're a marketing person, not an engineer. How would what? How would you state that? So you're calling into question their knowledge.
Yeah. Here's how I think we would rephrase it properly to get rid of that attack, but still bring up the marketing thing. Is like, okay, get your backgrounds in marketing. You're injecting something that's in the engineering realm. So instead of just saying it's not true, like you need to explain your reasoning then. Why do you think this statement's true? That's the way I would address it.
Yeah, so you're going to ask them to back up the fact that the engineering principle they brought up is relevant to the conversation.
Irrelevant, but what I'm saying is just because you're doing it at hominem doesn't mean anything. It just means you're personally attacking them, and it doesn't in any way indicate that they could be right or could be wrong. It's just meaningless. It's just a cheap shot, right?
Yeah, it's almost a red herring.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Right. It's almost a red herring.
And what they could say, they could go back and say, well, yeah, the reason I'm qualified in this case, I understand I'm in a marketing role, but just so you know, I'm a doctorate in electrical engineering, and I don't do that function, but that was my previous degree. I'm like, oh,
so
changes everything.
See, another term that they had in the list that I came up with was a genetic fallacy, saying that an argument's wrong based upon its origin. So it comes from a non-engineer, therefore your argument's wrong, is basically what you're saying.
That doesn't, what it means in my mind, Chris, is it means nothing. It doesn't mean your argument's right or incorrect. It just means that you're just like taking a cheap shot.
Yep.
Is all it means.
And generally the ad hominem attack is expected to be that. It's like, instead of talking about the merits of the topic that's being discussed, you are instead critiquing the person making the argument.
Yes. You're attacking the person instead of their message.
So it's like the old idea: don't shoot the messenger. They're shooting
Correct.
the messenger.
Exactly right. They're shooting the messenger. Right. And it's pretty damn effective, right?
It's
Because
very,
you don't
it's
need
very
to evaluate your argument in any way at all.
It's very effective, especially if you're appealing to a group of people that are already inclined to believe you.
Exactly. Right. And so you could easily shut that person down. If it, like the other engineer's like, yeah, man, come on, you're a mark.
And honestly, most of the YouTubers that we watch that have these debates have an audience that they're appealing to. And so they don't have to make good arguments. They don't have to make good arguments to win.
They don't. Yeah. They just, yes. It's an emotional appeal, right? Say like, what do you and it could be right most of the time. And I fall, and it's interesting, because now that I'm thinking about it, if I'm sitting around solving a very technical problem of something, and I have a group of people that are very experienced in that, and then somebody else just comes in and just shouts out something, my first thought would be to go there. My first thought would be, well, what do you know about this subject? Just go away, right?
Well, yeah. So this is the problem you get is we always say, oh, getting a fresh set of eyes is always nice. We always talk about that. But also, people who are experienced lived through a certain amount of understanding and learning and the like. And to discredit that by just saying, I'm going to bring in a guy who knows nothing and let them opine on this is a bit of an insult to them, right? So really being able to balance this out to where you're able to keep a fresh mindset, at the same time not belittling the knowledge someone already has. I think that's it's a tough balance to walk.
Yeah, it's tough because I definitely want somebody that's highly skilled in an area, like tremendous amounts of critical thinking, but they don't necessarily have to have subject matter expertise, right? Because they could point out something. It's like, oh, all you engineers, I know this is an engineering problem, but it seems like you're excluding these 7 other possibilities, and they could be blind to it. So there could be tremendous value to that.
Well, and this is why I think, I've talked about this term specialized generalist, right? It's the idea of someone who knows enough about a topic to have a relatively deep conversation about it, but not enough to be considered a subject matter expert in it.
Yeah, right.
Right. And I think many of us think we're this way in a lot of places, especially when it comes to politics and other things. Most commonly we're not. But I do think there are people who are like this, who go deep into understanding things so that they can have a conversation that is meaningful from the subject matter expert's opinion. It clarifies things for the generalist to then explain it to everyone else.
Yeah.
One of the things that subject matter experts are often not good at is explaining to the layman. But that generalist is walking the line between the two. They understand enough. They can have the conversation with the expert, and then they can go back to the regular layman and explain things.
Yeah. And it could be that this other person coming in that knows nothing about engineering could be an expert in human bias. And they're like, every ounce of my knowledge says, man, I see this bias pattern just screaming loud. I got to just I know nothing about engineering, but it's like, man, that's how biased people are.
I mean, the fact that so many AIs are biased in their output.
Yeah, right.
And it makes you go, well, the programmer didn't say, I want bias in my output. They're not doing that. Right. The guy who trained it just used. Well, I'm gonna bet you that 99.9% of the time he's not that way. But the idea here being that somehow the output is coming out biased. So what does this mean? Right. That means that somewhere in the system is bias. How do you recognize where that could be and how it's coming into the system? And I think your technical people go, no, there's no bias. We didn't train any bias into this. And you're probably right. You didn't train any bias into it. But the data set you gave it had human bias baked into it. It's just copying the data set.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's happening now with AI.
All the time.
I was watching Nate or whatever, just a video right before this podcast. He was talking about that now ChatGPT-5 is trained on synthetic data and evaluated by other AIs. So all of a sudden its writing is getting crappier and crappier, actually. Because it's not being judged by humans, which is what the output is designed for, not for another AI.
He also said he had a whole thing about prompting with Chat 5. Did you see that video? That was interesting. Basically, he was talking about having like an initial prompt or not a master prompt, but an initial prompt. Okay, so before you start prompting, give it context to understand what's going on here. Give it rules to follow, basically. So give it an initial
Yeah,
prompt.
right.
So
Yeah.
you can't do the single prompting the way you used to. He was basically talking to the layman who uses chat, saying you can't do the
right.
single prompts you used to because they've made changes that are so intrinsic to the way it operates. You need to give it a prompt to set the tone, and then you can do your prompt. Right?
Yeah, and
And I
that's a
thought that
general
was really
thing.
interesting because it's forcing the user to understand prompt engineering at a level beyond what they knew before.
Yeah, and it's interesting, and I don't want to turn this into an AI discussion, which would be easily to do. But it's interesting because ChatGPT 5 is not a single model. It basically evaluates and it goes out to multiple different kinds of models. So you need to understand you're not talking to one model, and most people don't understand that.
Well, I mean that's why when you're making graphics and you get so frustrated with it not being able to understand directions, it's not making the picture. It's just the middleman who sends it off to DALL-E or whoever is making the picture.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just interesting to understand that, and it's just interesting. So I think that's kind of cool, Chris. So then we've covered this ad hominem attack.
How do we build wonder, or how is creativity reflected in the AI?
I don't know.
And is what we're seeing that we think is creative, is it truly creativity? Or is it a level of randomness added on top of probability?
Well, it depends on how you define creativity, Chris. I would probably the latter, actually. I mean, AI at its core is a pattern matching thing. It matches patterns.
And when you change the temperature, you're allowing it to go a little bit off script when it comes to the probabilities.
A little bit more random than before, actually. Yeah. And so, but that doesn't say it can't model creativity because it's being trained principally. Now it's a little different, but it's being principally trained
box,
on,
right? I want you to have a bigger box.
Right?
It's got the biggest box there is.
It's a very big box. Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the limitations of AI is that they've trained it on most of the data that they can train it on already. And the bulk of the other data is behind firewalls it can't get to. So we've trained it on all the open stuff that it can get. So now what they're doing, they're starting to train it on synthetic data managed by another AI. And that's where the quality is going down.
So what is synthetic data? I mean, what are examples of synthetic data? What type of stuff?
Okay, so here's an example. I'm glad you asked. So let's talk about cats.
Sure.
So when AI produces a picture of a cat, that is truly unique. That's a unique picture of a cat. It's not like it's copying another cat. It's not even like it's taking 7 pictures of cats and somehow merging them together. It's basically going on and looking at thousands of pictures of cats and trying to distill down to the essence of what a cat is, like the pattern, like almost like the DNA of what a cat is. And then you say, I want a picture of a cat, and I want a gray cat sitting on a park bench. And it takes all that information and truly synthesizes a new picture of a cat. That's synthesized data. That's not an actual cat. It's built from the patterns of other cats.
Okay. And so why does it need more synthesized data? Why do we need synthesized data? And in that scenario, isn't the synthesized data being created from existing data? Which means it's the same as if it were to just go make something up right now off of the existing data. What value does building it off of existing data make for have more data?
I don't know. That's a really good question.
So I understand we talk about synthesized data. I had assumed synthesized data was me creating a data set that I want to represent the information it's going to use. So we talked about that biased data set. So if I've got a biased data set because it's from the 1950s and we had more racial outcomes than we do today, and we want a better balance, I would synthesize a new data set that had the right representations of blacks and whites and Asians and Hispanics and the like. And then that would be what I would train it off of. That's what I assumed synthesized data was.
Yeah, and I don't know much about that because I just saw the video today, and it's the first time I've come across that idea. So
I'll look at that because
I don't know the answer.
I told you I went over RAG and vector databases, and so I had this when we were at that the school's open house yesterday, and we went to my daughter's in geometry, and up on the board they had statistics and they had geometry, and I was thinking of those vector databases, and I'm going to imagine someone is actually using this to figure out how to make AI intelligent. A vector database, right? I mean, literally, it's just a math equation. LLMs are probability, pattern matching, and RAG is basically just vector database. It's a math equation.
It's math equations mapped up into this multi-dimensional space.
So are our brains math equations? Or is this...
Well, that's where I was kind of trying to get to.
Wrong?
That's where I was trying to lead you on creativity and what makes it and what's the mechanism. How does it actually work?
So if AI uses math, probability and or vector database, whatever the math that is that geometry or trig? I don't know what that is. I think it's geometry. If that's what it uses to appear intelligent to us, when we appear intelligent, what's happening in the brain? Are the chemical reactions just chemical representations of mathematical equations?
Well, this is so interesting, right? So, okay, Chris, we got like 10 minutes to wrap this up.
Okay, we can solve world peace.
What's that?
We can solve world peace.
So here's my thought. And this is what I don't know. It could be either way. It could be that God created the mathematics and then built a system around the math. That math was the original language. So literally, the Bible talks about God spoke the universe into existence. So it could be that he literally spoke these mathematical equations, the patterns, into existence, like a human gets created from DNA, and spoke it that way. Or it could be that math is just articulating the patterns that God made the universe. I don't know which one. But it appears to be that mathematics doesn't approximate what we see. It is exactly what we see. Because the way mathematicians work, right, is they come up with an idea, they come up with an equation, and then we go test it. Based upon this Einstein's equation, we should see light bend approximately this much around the sun because of gravity, how it affects it. And then we measure it and we're like, holy crap, that's exactly what was predicted. And so we get more and more confident that this math describes reality. So which one, I don't know, chicken or the egg? I don't know, Chris.
Yeah. So one of the things that in the last couple of years I've begun to question is how much math is biased by our biochemistry and how much math is pure and universal. We always talk about, math being a universal language or music being a universal language. And and I wonder if we were to meet a different species that did not have two sexes, but had 3 or 5 or 12 or whatever, would they think in base 2, base 5, base 8, would that have an impact on math? Like if I were to do a differential equation in base 8, I don't know how I do it, but does it change the equation? I'm assuming no. I'm assuming the logic of how an equation works is the same no matter what counting system I'm in. But I do wonder if the way we see the universe, meaning our biochemistry filters the universe, means that we interpret math differently than some other species might.
Yeah, don't know.
Well, and if that's true, then that's an argument that math is not universal. Whereas if it's like, no, they may represent it on paper or on whatever differently than us, but the mathematical equations are the same no matter what, and they come to the same results even in their own language, then that would imply there's a universal math.
I would tend to think that's probably the right thing, assuming that God created everything. He created the universe to behave in a very particular way. So wherever you are in the universe, you would derive and you would see that pattern and you'd write it down in a different way. But it's like the pattern would be the same.
So I'm just thinking, like, we don't know. Do we know if does gravity work the same throughout the universe? Does light speed work the same throughout the universe? Do all of these ideas that we have actually work the same throughout the universe? Because it seems if the laws of physics can bend based upon where you are in the universe, then mathematics might bend depending on where you are in the universe, or actually would have to, because that's how you represent it.
Yeah, I mean, it could be this mathematics just describes what's there. I don't know how.
Yeah,
accurate it is. It's like so far we made
I've
it.
now begun to question the universality of whether. Yeah, I still believe mathematics is likely its own individual thing and pure in and of itself, but I still have now this idea in the back of my head: what if? What if it isn't? What if it's literally the human way to see the world? And it works for us in our heads, but it wouldn't work for anyone else.
Don't know.
So anyway, I don't know. These are just thoughts. These are my thoughts throughout the week of all this weird.
Sounds like
stuff
we need to
going
start
on.
getting guests on. Like we need a mathematician. We need to start getting some people smarter than we are, actually, because we're kind of dumb. In the grand
well, we
scheme of
need
things.
them to argue with us, and we need them to tell us we're wrong, and then we need them to point out these things, and and then we need to attack them with ad hominem attacks.
Oh, absolutely! I'll attack them relentlessly. Like you're just a stupid mathematician. What do you know, right?
Yeah.
Obviously,
You're just a mathematician. What do you know about geometry?
Yeah, what do you know? Exactly.
What is
Who's
it?
running the show, anyways?
No, I was the teacher for my daughter's math teacher teaches statistics as well, and so there was something on the board, and I was thinking, oh, statistics! Isn't there a saying about statistics? There's truth and there's fact and there's falsehood and there's statistics or something like that.
No. Here's how it goes. This is my first day in statistics. There's lies, there's damn lies, and then there's statistics.
Okay.
That's how it goes.
Yeah. No, I love statistics, but I also love how you can manipulate them too.
Yeah.
Right? Because
Exactly right.
The stupidity of statistics is when you listen to a sports game, and they give you, this is the fourth time since 1995 that this has occurred in the third inning of a rainy game.
Yeah. Right.
Like, what the hell?
It sounds good though, Chris. Come on. I mean, these guys, the beautiful thing about these dudes is they can talk and they'll fill it up with like stuff that's like, yeah, that's kind of cool. I never thought about that.
I would prefer to go back to the days when the announcers actually had cool phrases and sayings and things. When it made it interesting. They had their own little phrases that they would use.
Yeah. That's their job, Chris. They're there to entertain, just like the news is purely entertainment.
So then we need to come up with some useless facts for people.
That's what we're doing. That's what we just did for almost 2 hours, Chris.
No, this is just
nonsense.
Our opinions. We need facts. I need to give you real facts that 95% of the time you are wrong.
That's exactly right. That sounds good. Well,
I mean, but honestly, maybe we should do an episode where we dismantle facts.
Okay, let's dismantle.
Or dismantle statistics. That'd be an interesting thing to do. Dismantle a statistic and show how it's saying the exact opposite of what they want you to take away.
Yeah, very likely. Well, in accounting, my first accounting class was basically the way accounting works is you figure out what the number is, and then Mr. Woodall, I remember him at junior college, said, now what we're going to do is I'm going to teach you how to prove that what you just want to prove is right. We're going to walk down. We back solve it. That's good accounting.
Yeah, simple enough to do.
That's why you keep 2 sets of books. He always taught.
Scott, whatever opinion you want to prove, we can prove it.
That's right. He said you keep 2 sets of books for a business. You keep the one set of books that you show everybody, and then the other set of books is the actual real books that you run your business by.
Yeah, I don't think he would have passed an auditor's an audit.
Well, that's how things do. That's called cooking the books, and it's been going on for a long time.
Mm-hmm. But I think we all do that even in our own heads.
Yeah, we lie to ourselves.
All the
That's
time.
correct, actually. That's why you need me. I'll keep you from lying to yourself, Chris.
No, you'll just join me in my lie.
Sometimes it's a shared hallucination. Sometimes we do that.
You know, if we could
That's
all
right.
just hallucinate along.
Well, that's how we define truth, Chris. If we agree on it, it's the
If
truth.
we can get America to hallucinate together, that'll be a win.
That's called marketing and sales, Chris. It's all made up. It's all one big hallucination.
It is. The American dream. What is it today? What's our shared hallucination of that today?
2.4 kids, white picket fence, Netflix, and something else. I don't know.
And an Amazon Prime account.
Amazon Prime. There you go. That's American. And then guns. We got a lot of guns too. Depends on what state you're in. The dream's a little different depending on what state you're in.
Yeah. See, in this
Everybody
state,
gets at least. When I came back here, they said to be a true Arkansas, you got to have 4 things. You got to have a pickup truck, trailer, a gun, and a chainsaw. Then you're in.
what kind of trailer? Are we talking like to haul stuff or like an actual camping trailer?
Yeah, no haul stuff. Actually.
Okay.
So you can haul the stuff you cut down with your chainsaw.
All right. Yeah. And
And I thought it was silly until I realized that how many times I've used the chainsaw to cut up trees and branches that fall down. Or whatever.
Did I tell you like one time for work I had to go to North Carolina, I think it was, and I'm sitting around with the other IT. I was auditing the IT department, so we went to lunch with them. We're sitting around, and the conversation was about who had the coolest chainsaw. Like they were talking about, they were comparing chainsaws, and how to skin a buck using a tractor. Basically, you just peel the skin off the animal, And I'm like, these are not California conversations.
No, they're not. And Californians would look at that and go, "What is wrong with you?" And the opposite is true. It's like, "What is wrong with you, Californians? Like, you guys sit around and eat walnuts all day and smoke weed? Is that what you do?" Because obviously you run your state like that.
Well, no, the fact that I'm listening to them talk about how to skin a buck using a knife and a tractor, and then it went to chainsaws after that, and I'm like, I can't jump in this conversation. I've got no relevant experience to bring into any of this.
It's just a different environment, Chris. It's different environment.
Yeah.
And I thought, people drive around in pickup trucks. They're just egotistical. It's like, no.
It's a utility vehicle.
These are tools.
It's a utility vehicle.
People use it. This is not just some, like, I'm cool, I drive a truck. It's
Does anyone have a Tesla truck?
I've seen one running around here.
And do they use it as a truck? Because I bet you they don't.
I don't know. I've only seen it 2 or 3 times, but it is around. I occasionally see a Tesla running around, but not very often.
So the school down my street, which is literally on my street, 8 houses down, it closed this year and reopened under a charter school. So so now we're getting all of the rich kids in the area are coming down the street. So every morning at 8, it is almost a parking lot of Teslas out there. I mean, literally 90% of the cars I see are Teslas, and I'm like, oh my god, oh boy, California is Tesla land.
Yeah, well, that's where Elon Musk hangs out. Well, now he moved to Texas, right? So now
Texas better become a Tesla land then.
I think so. I like Texas, man. I think Texas is California done right, but they're starting to have their own problems now.
They got their own problems, and this whole thing with the gerrymandering. I mean, it's these next elections are going to be horrible.
Yeah, I don't know. And maybe Trump will just like be president forever. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Well,
I don't know about it either.
Okay, I don't know that I can say anything on a podcast about that. But I think
it's a highly unlikely, actually. Yeah.
No, but one of the things is like, so I'm seeing commercials now here attacking this move by Newsom to make 5 more Democrats out of California, right? And that's in response to Texas is doing
of
it,
course.
and now other states are doing this too. And I'm like, yeah, if the whole purpose of an idea is to rig the most votes of one side or the other, that is so anti-democratic. I don't understand why we just can't agree as a nation. This is against democracy. We shouldn't do it.
Because everybody wants to win. Everybody wants to be in power. That's the ultimate game. I want the power.
And
right?
when winning becomes more important than the game, you're on your way to ruin.
Well, here's the thing. Well, yeah, absolutely. But here's the thing. If everybody gerrymanders, then it's all going to just wash out anyways. It's going to go back to the same baseline, right?
The ends don't justify the means. Doing something bad. Everyone doing something bad is not an excuse to do it.
No, I'm not saying it's an excuse. I'm just saying it'll all wash out, right?
Yeah. So no. To me, this is a hard pass. No one should do this.
No, and I'll somewhat agree with you, but everybody's been doing it for as long as I can remember.
Yes, and that's why California actually has a law against it, and that's why he has to get an exception to the law this year to be able to do this.
Well, he's only doing it because Texas did it first, actually. So I got to do it, right?
Because he has to change the law in California to do this. But the thing is, California's far enough left that they'll probably allow him to do this.
Of course
right?
they will.
So basically, though, but we actually have a law against this.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
I know.
And because Texas doesn't have a law like that and they're willing to do it, that's why he's like, okay, I'm going to do something about it.
I know.
Okay, I don't like him, but one of the things I would say about him is he's one of the only Democrats who's vocally doing anything against the other side.
Well, here's the problem with California, right? Here's the problem with California, Chris, is just from a business standpoint, it's ranked 50 out of 50. It's the worst place to do business. I mean, a lot of big investors, Kevin O'Leary says it's the dumpster file. It's uninvestable because the policies are just so bad. And that's why all these huge companies are moving out.
And let me push back on that. I agree with a lot of that, but let me push back on that because I don't know what the numbers really are. Let me push back that California is the fourth largest economy in the world. It's bigger than Japan.
Fifth largest.
Thought it was fourth now. Anyway, it's bigger than Japan.
Quickly going to sixth.
The other, who's going up then?
Texas
and nowhere near as large as California, are they? I don't believe that.
They're going to be very soon. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And we've been talking about this for years. We talk about where the AI boom is occurring. So, yes, if you're running a small business, it sucks to be in California. I can't deny that.
Too many taxes, just too much corruption,
and yet
too much everything.
And yet, we spend money on all kinds of crap that I don't agree with.
Yeah, right.
And yet, for some reason, it is still the massive powerhouse that it is.
There's something that's declining.
There's something about it. But we've been saying that for 20 years now. So I don't know how much weight I give it. I don't know how much weight I give that because of that.
Well, let's do this. Let's next time. Let's look at the numbers.
We had a lot of people leave last year, right? I think last year. Was that?
Well, we had a lot of people leave for the past several years leaving California. I mean, people are not investing in California. It's like look at what is it, Bed Bath and Beyond? Who's Marcus Lemonis? She's like, well, I'm not going into California. I'm not doing it because we'll dump $100 million
Bed Bath and Beyond,
and they'll just
what?
Who was it? The one that went out of business, Marcus Lemonis. He's bought a new company or whatever, and he's like, I'm not putting him in California. I'm not doing it. Kevin O'Leary is saying it's uninvestable California. Elon Musk is saying, I'll keep some stuff there, but I'm moving to Texas for most of my stuff. So big companies are moving out of California as their headquarters. They're going to Texas.
So California's 4.1 trillion. Texas is 2.7 trillion right now. That's last year.
Yeah. Okay.
Texas is the second largest in America.
But look at the rate of change over the past 10 years.
I got to find that.
That's interesting to look at. And you'll see it's probably, my estimate is probably about 10 years before Texas eclipses California.
Here we go. What's this saying? So yeah, over the last 25 years, up to 23, Texas grew faster. Texas has grown 128% versus California's 111%.
Okay, there you go. Yeah. So in my mind, I think like 10 years, Texas will eclipse California. Well, and look at all the major club.
At that differentiation, it's probably longer than that. At that much of a differentiation.
I'm not assuming it's going to be linear. I'm assuming the acceleration is going to happen.
I think what we need to see is what happens with the AI companies because they're the ones that are going to be building.
I know all the data centers are building them in Tennessee because you can't build them in California.
Company's still based out of wherever it's based out of. So if the company moves, that'll tell you a lot.
Well, look at the major company. Are you in chat right now?
No, I'm just I'm in Gemini right now, I think.
okay, whatever. Just NEI. Just do the research. What are the major companies moved out of California into Texas? I mean, big ones have moved.
Well, I know a lot from even years ago because a lot of executives moved their entire executive structure to Texas years ago.
Yeah, exactly. But that's not to say Texas doesn't have problems. It's got all sorts of problems.
Let's see. So I said past 10 years, who's done this? So Tesla, we know. But year before that was Oracle and HP. HP Enterprise. I don't know what the distinction is. Charles Schwab moved to Texas. HP moved to Texas too, apparently. Chevron moved to Houston. CBRE moved to Dallas. Realtor.com. Is that an actual company? Okay. That moved to Austin. Because I said specifically California to Texas. I didn't just say leave California.
Okay, gotcha, yeah.
McKesson Corp. McKesson Pharmaceuticals. Okay. Texas. SpaceX, of course. And then other ones. Palantir moved to Texas. No, moved to Denver. And I don't know the other two companies that are listed here. Okay.
It'd be really interesting to just look at the inflow versus the outflow of California. Look at investments going in versus out. I mean, investment dollars. Yeah, right, exactly.
Oh, I
Marcus LeBon. I know he was. It's just been in the news. He's not. He's saying we're not operating in California. We're just not doing it. I want to say Bed Bath Beyond. I can't remember which company it is.
Well, yeah, they were one that went under a few years ago.
Yeah, and he bought the IP rights to it. He's gonna
so it looks like since 2023, both markets have been going down a bit for GDP growth. Yeah, it shows 5 versus 3 trillion is what I'm seeing on this chart here.
Interesting. Okay.
So at a 10% change, at a 15% difference in growth rate, so at 3 trillion versus 5 trillion. So what is that? 60% bigger at a 15% growth rate. You're talking about, I don't know how many years is that to catch up.
Well, assuming it's linear, and I think because of policy, more and more people will move out of California into other states, and they're just not moving to Texas. They're moving to Tennessee. I mean, they're moving all over the place. There's no huge infrastructure being built in California, as far as I know. It's all in some other state just because of the regulations.
It looks like in 2006 and 2008, California had a pretty big exodus. And then from 8 to 18, we had a lessening of people leaving. And then from 2018 on, it's increased again. People leaving.
Yeah.
Texas has had a pretty steady amount through that entire time.
Mm-hmm.
Coming in, that is, sorry.
Because they're just more business friendly. People are like, okay, that's where we're going.
Texas jobs from a number of jobs, that seems to be going down. I don't know what that's telling me. Yeah, okay, there's a lot of stats here I don't get here.
Yeah, interesting.
So I think it'll be interesting to see what happens. But particularly, I want to see what happens with Chinese and Japanese money. Right, they're all selling off their U.S. stocks, the U.S. bonds. See what happens with Europe. Europe, Saudi Arabia, all these other countries that own huge chunks of America. See what happens as they sell off their bonds. Because I think that is where we'll see. That's where we're going to see a lot of change. So then the question becomes, what survives? Is it services? Is it manufacturing? Is it tech? What is it that survives in that world?
Yeah, I don't know that. Then how AI affects everything. I don't know. Don't know, Chris. Don't know.
We shall see. But anyway, so what I was saying though is, like I said, if Texas wants to do something, California makes sense that it would do something different to it. And honestly, like I said, there isn't anyone else. I would have said no one would have thought. Well, I would have said no one would have wanted what's his name as the Democratic candidate next time. I think he's building a pretty good case for himself.
That's what he's doing. He's trying. Whether he wins or not, who knows?
Whether he can maintain that role for the next 3 years, I don't know. It's going to be tough to do.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think the guy's just like such a scumbag. He's just.
I mean, honestly, Trump is just tireless.
Dude, even the Young Turks, which are like radically far left, actually, they hate him with a passion. Actually,
Yeah. Yeah, but I have a feeling individually he's probably just as likable as anyone. Back to
he
that
might
whole,
be.
that charm and charisma thing. His charisma doesn't work for
He
me.
might be.
His
He might be.
His charisma comes across as a used car salesman to me.
Definitely a little bit on
All
the
right,
swarmy side.
but I bet you his charm in an individual basis is probably just as high up there as any other good politician.
Could be.
Yeah.
Man, he speaks with a lot of conviction. That's all I know. It's crazy.
Well,
Yeah.
he's got a lot of conviction. Whether it's good or bad, I don't know. But
I don't know. And
anyway,
and the thing is, Chris, I don't really care. I am so out of politics right now because I'm thinking there's just such a waste of time. Right.
it is a waste of time.
It is a total waste.
I was watching the whole thing with Kennedy yesterday, and he was being grilled by the senators, and I kind of agreed with a lot of what the senators said. But at the end of the day, I mean, this is who Trump put into office. You're gonna have to deal with whatever the outcome is. If more people get sick and die out of it as a result of this, then that's just a bad part of. We're going through a bad.
Maybe they will. Maybe they will. I don't know. I don't know what to see. I don't know.
Well, my only dislike of what's going on right now around the world, not just in the U.S., is the distrust of science because of how science has been corrupted over.
Because it's so polluted. Because there's so money. Yeah, corrupted. There's just so much money in it.
Yeah, and if I were to give like if we had like ratings, like sports ratings on how good a scientist was. That would be interesting. Right. This person is a good scientist. This person is a crappy scientist. This person.
Well, yeah, but who evaluates? Who gives the grade? Right? I mean, how much? Who do I have to pay to get a good grade? It's always comes down to that.
I'll create an AI with absolutely no bias at all.
Of course,
that will rate all of these people in how good they are in science and how much you can trust them.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Whoa.
All right, Chris.
Okay. Oh, I must have minimized my screen. I don't see anything. There we go.
Yeah, all right, cool. This is a good time. All right, Chris.
I'll talk to you later. Is the
subscribe, tell Chris how wrong he is, of course.
Yes. And this time, though, make coherent comments. Some of these comments I don't understand if you're saying Scott's wrong or I'm wrong, right? How can I defend myself if I know you're talking about him? So I'm
sure they're pointing to me. I'm sure it's about me, actually.
But please subscribe, comment, tell us who to interview, and then put us in contact with them so we can get a hold of them too.
Yeah, perfect. And I'm out networking now, so I'm gonna hunt down some really interesting people coming in. In fact, there's a local university here, Arkansas University. Mm-hmm. I'm talking with them about maybe being on their AI advisory board at the university level. So
that's cool. Yeah.
Yes. So I'm getting out there. I'm like spreading my wings a little bit.
Teach classes. Go teach classes.
I may teach. I know that there's a local high school that wants me to teach on some marketing. It's like a DECA program or something that is interesting. So
that sounds cool.
So that's my thing. I'm supposed to be a teacher, Chris. I'm supposed to teach, which means I gotta like actually teach like good stuff. So I gotta actually, instead of babbling like here, I've got to actually like say something coherent, which is going to be a challenge for me.
If you come up with a thought you want to teach, we can hash it out.
I will. Well, let's do that. Well, that is so good. That is so good.
Right?
Okay, let's hit the stop button because I gotta go.
I'm gonna hit stop. 1, 2, 3. Bonk.